Seeing white fragility. So, seeing a purported psychological attribute that is inherent to a particular skin color. Golly, I love learning new things about what I should expect someone to think or do merely on the basis of their race. It is a very progressive way of thinking. All right, I am ready to be educated. Tell me all about white fragility.
How do you feel when you see a headline like this?
How do I feel? Well, given that I read news stories 6 nights a week on the Lords of the Night, and that most of those news stories come from CNN, I have come to take most headlines with a gigantic grain of clickbait suspicion these days. Honestly, I'm not sure how to feel based purely on that headline, not knowing what the content of the article actually is. You know, the old principle of not judging a book by its cover? Oh, but I digress. Please continue telling me how white people behave.
Or this.
Well, my first reaction isn't so much a feeling as it is a thought. And that thought is, wow, that author is certainly a racist to be surprised that people of a certain skin color don't all behave the same way. Oh, sorry, I know I'm disrupting the flow. Please continue telling me about white fragility.
If you're white, you might feel uncomfortable, guilty, or even angry.
Sure. I guess I might feel those things, but then I might feel a lot of things. So that is not a very risky bet.
In this video, we're going to talk about why that happens and how to overcome it.
So, how to overcome feeling uncomfortable over being judged on the basis of my race? Oh boy, I can't wait to learn this.
Most white Americans don't realize our culture protects us from having to truly confront racial inequality.
Really? Because I am bombarded with messages nearly every day telling me about racial inequality. But then, maybe it's only because I watch the news.
Which gives us a major blind spot when it comes to understanding what the reality of systemic racism is for people of color, or how complicit we may be in their oppression.
Well, okay. So, because I am white, I have an innate blind spot to the problems that you have just outlined. Which means that if I say anything in protest of, or contradiction to that claim, you can defeat me by telling me it's because of my blind spot. Wow, it's funny that you've constructed a scenario where white people can never successfully offer an opposing viewpoint. It's almost like my skin color automatically negates anything that I might have to say.
We think of racism as something bad people engage in, instead of something we're conditioned into from childhood.
Well, that's a jump. Being blind to racial inequality leads immediately to an active ideology of racial elevation and/or denigration? Okay.
As a result, when indirect, unconscious, or less obvious forms of racism and discrimination are exposed for what they are, it challenges our beliefs about ourselves and our world, provoking our own blind spots when it comes to race. And more often than not, well, let's just say we don't handle it well.
Yes. When white people are accused of being racist, even unjustifiably, it's a real flaw in their character to take it badly, especially when they deny it because, that's just their inborn blind spot talking.
The phrase was invented by Robin DiAngelo, a multicultural education expert, to talk about what happens consciously and unconsciously when white Americans are confronted with challenges to white dominance. According to DiAngelo, even a minimal amount of racial stress becomes intolerable, triggering a range of defensive moves, including the outward display of emotions such as anger, fear, and guilt, and behaviors such as argumentation, silence, and leaving the stress-inducing situation.
Ah yes, Robin DiAngelo. I did a video on a speech of hers a while back. She is a very interesting character. But yes, being confronted with an accusation of racism might lead to argumentation, silence, or leaving the situation altogether. Standing up for yourself, stunned silence, and removing yourself from a conversation you don't want to be in, these are all bad things to do and signs of racial fragility. Got it.
These behaviors wind up preserving the status quo, protecting white comfort, and therefore reinstating white dominance.
Yes, I understand. These are the ways in which white people should not behave because it fuels white dominance. Got it.
White fragility is triggered by interruptions, in which white codes of discourse are broken to force a white person to confront racism, and they show up in a number of different ways.
White codes of discourse. Huh. I wonder what kinds of discourse are inherent to white people.
Like when anyone, white or otherwise, suggests that a white person's viewpoint is racist.
Oh, so that is a form of disruption. Suggesting that a white person's viewpoint is racist. Not outright accusing, which would probably require some sort of evidence, but merely suggesting it and letting it hang in the air. To which, of course, the accused would be incorrect to defend themselves against. Got it.
When people of color talk candidly about their experiences of racism.
So, when people of certain colors talk about themselves, this inherently interrupts white dominance. So, white dominance is vulnerable to people talking. Got it.
When people of color choose not to share stories or answer questions about their racial experience.
So, when people of certain colors do not talk about themselves, this inherently interrupts white dominance. So, white dominance is vulnerable to people not talking. Got it.
And especially whenever people of color choose not to protect the racial feelings of white people.
White women don't care about us. Not all white women are this way. Stop being so divisive. All right, so if someone makes a broad racist accusation against white people, it's legitimate. Not protecting the racial feelings of others is acceptable so long as the targets are white. Got it.
Some other instances of racial stress include when white people are denied access to black safe spaces or black bodies.
Black safe spaces, black bodies. Keeping white people out and away because they are white is an example of racial stress, which white people cannot tolerate, so says Robin DiAngelo. So, white people should tolerate being discriminated against based on their race. Got it.
When white people are told their actions have racist impacts.
Racist impacts. When they are told this. Got it.
When racial inclusivity gets prioritized over group membership.
When racial inclusivity gets prioritized over group membership. This is a racial stress. I'm not sure I understand what that means. Including people of all races is a bad thing? I must be missing something.
When double standards are exposed.
Double standards. Oh, so no one described the Super Bowl riots as riots because of white privilege. Well, if that article says that, then it must be true. Oh, wait. That was me being argumentative, wasn't it? God damn my white fragility.
When white meritocracy is challenged by exposing white privilege.
Well, I mean, what is there to expose? Obviously, white privilege exists. You wouldn't be making a whole video educating us on how fragile white dominance is to accusations of racism unless it was already proven beyond any reasonable doubt that it exists.
Whenever white centrality is challenged by narratives in which people of color are front and center without being presented stereotypically.
No white people paid to see Black Panther because Black Panther did not portray black people in the way that white people prefer. Got it.
And finally, when a person of color holds a position of leadership.
White people cannot tolerate a person of color in a position of leadership, which is why no white people voted for Barack Obama in either of his 2 presidential elections. Got it.
Whatever the cause, knee-jerk overreactions protect white dominance by silencing non-white voices and segregating whites from people of color.
Yes, knee-jerk overreactions, like defending oneself over an accusation of racism or racist impacts, which protect white dominance, which can be interrupted by a person of color talking about or choosing not to talk about themselves, and this segregates white people from people of color, except in those instances where whites are denied access to black safe spaces because that is acceptable segregation. Got it.
By distancing ourselves from racially stressful situations and refusing to consider other perspectives, white people take advantage of the very race privilege we claim not to have.
Yes. If a white person is accused of racist behavior, justified or not, the only correct action for them to take is to remain still. Anything else fuels white dominance. Got it.
As long as white people require conversations about race to be comfortable for us, racial equality will be a lot harder to achieve.
White people require that all discussions of race be comfortable for white people. Got it.
So what do we do when our rules stand in the way of dealing constructively with racism?
What are the rules again?
The answer is, we break the rules.
What are the rules again? You know, the rules that all white people abide by and enforce. Because I honestly have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, wait. That's my pesky inborn blind spot again, isn't it? There is just no way of escaping my being white, is there?
The best way to defeat white fragility is to grow a thicker skin.
Grow a thicker skin. A thicker white skin, which still makes me complicit in racism and white dominance simply for existing. Got it.
Build your racial stamina by following some do's and don'ts. Don't assume you are objective or an authority on the experiences of people of color. In a racialized society, whites inevitably have a blind spot.
I am presupposed to think of myself as an objective authority on the experiences of others. I have a blind spot because I am white. Got it.
Resist the urge to get defensive when people of color speak honestly about their experiences. Catch yourself whenever you find yourself thinking that a black person's perspective is divisive or abusive. That's often a sign that you lack understanding.
When a person of color speaks, I must abandon my critical thinking skills. Having a question or an opposing opinion to a person of color is the wrong way of thinking and a sign of my inherent ignorance. Got it.
Don't recenter a conversation or narrative involving race around you or your feelings. Instead, cede the floor to your neighbors of color to amplify and learn from their perspectives.
Do not participate in any personal way in a conversation about race. Defer to anyone who is not white in such situations. Whatever I have to say about myself would be unconstructive, because I am white. Got it.
Explore the complexity of individuals you disagree with or don't understand. Your realities are totally different, and you will never breach that divide by running away from or silencing uncomfortable exchanges.
Explore the complexity of people I do not understand or that I disagree with. Just do not question or say anything in opposition to such people. Remain stationary and silent, and cede the conversation to them because they are not white. Got it.
Before getting angry, think about the root cause or need behind someone's emotional outburst or complaint. What you're interpreting as impoliteness or vitriol may be the best available means for them to express their experience of racism.
Give the benefit of the doubt to someone's accusation or complaint of racism. Weigh their claim fairly, but do not question or attempt to counterpoint it, because that would be a perpetuation of white dominance. Got it.
Remember, in this society, white people are safer, included, and seen by default.
Well, if you say so, then it must be true.
The same is not true for people of color, which is why forcing them to shoulder the burden of fighting for equality, requiring them to be friendly and helpful in the face of white ignorance, and expecting them to give white people the benefit of the doubt, is not only wrong but also makes well-meaning white people complicit in their oppression.
Racist white people are complicit in oppression. Well-meaning white people are also complicit in oppression. White people are complicit in oppression no matter what. Got it.
Choosing not to be sensitive in a world that already shelters you will improve your racial resiliency.
So, I should be insensitive to accusations of racist thoughts or actions. Got it.
lead to better relationships with your Black and brown friends and neighbors, and most importantly, create necessary space for the equality and justice that people of color deserve.
Being insensitive to accusations of racism will make brown and Black people like me better, so long as I remain silent, nod, and smile when being judged on the color of my skin rather than on the content of my character. I will be a good white person. Though, I will still be a white person. Got it. A quote taken out of context from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which, by its mere presence, obviously means he would have endorsed everything presented in this video. Got it. Rise District. What is that? Well, according to their Facebook page, Rise District is a DC metro-based organization that connects, supports, and educates new and re-entering progressive activists. Well, Rise District, consider me sold. Nothing makes me want to get out there and support progressive causes like having my self-worth devalued and my very existence vilified on the basis of something I cannot control and which is not determinative of who I am, but merely an aspect of what I am. Because it is that kind of ideology and guidance which will lead us to a better, more equitable tomorrow. But then, what do I know? I mean, I am white. As always, thank you for watching.